Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, gunfire rings out across the DR Congolese capital as a jailbreak gone wrong leaves unconfirmed numbers of people dead. The details of what happened at Makala remain unclear. We hear from our correspondent in the city. Also, researchers from the World Meteorological Society say that Africa faces a disproportionate burden from climate change and the costs of adapting. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, dozens are lost over weeks of severe flooding caused by extreme weather changes. Also, the rapid growth of cities is wiping out Ivory Coast's wetlands. The risks are particularly high around the economic hub of Abidjan, as our team finds out by heading out to some of the vital biodiversity hotspots that are on the decline. But first, in DR Congo, several people have reportedly been killed after an attempted jailbreak in the capital. Makala prison in Kinshasa is the country's largest. The justice minister said that the transfer of inmates to the prison is being suspended until further notice after Sunday night's breakout attempt. Streets around the site have been cordoned off, and some witnesses say that they've seen police vehicles transporting bodies away. The details of what happened, though, remain murky. Emmett Livingston tells us more.
In the early hours of Monday morning, a commotion began in the main prison in DR Congo's capital, Kinshasa, with witnesses describing hearing gunshots throughout the night.
The shooting started at 1 a.m. and continued until 5 a.m. Between 3 and 5 a.m., they were killing each other, and you could hear grenades going off.
Only the prison guards were firing. The police arrived late. Before 5 o'clock, there were no police. We could see people running away, prisoners escaping. We didn't understand anything until we noticed that they had blocked the road. There was no access.
By dawn, it appeared as if the worst had occurred. Dozens of lifeless and bloodied bodies appeared to be lying in a courtyard inside the prison, according to unverified images that have circulated on social media. The government stated that it had opened an investigation into what it called an attempted mass breakout, but the details about what happened remain unclear. The government hasn't yet given a death toll, although the Interior Minister did confirm that lives had been lost. Rights organizations say that dozens had been shot dead. Conditions inside Kinshasa's central prison, known as Makala, are notoriously bad. Originally built with several hundred inmates in mind, the prison is now home to several thousand. Prisoners have been known to die of starvation and even suffocation inside the tightly packed cells. DR Congo's Justice Minister, Constant Mutamba, had in recent weeks promised to tackle severe overcrowding.
Emmett Livingston there for us. Now, at least 10 protesters in Nigeria could face the death penalty after being charged with treason over their participation in demonstrations over the country's cost of living crisis. British citizens amongst the defendants who pled not guilty in an Abuja court on Monday. Their trial is due to begin on the 11th. Now, rights campaigners say that at least 22 people were fatally shot by security forces cracked down on last month's rallies, although police deny this. The proceedings have been widely condemned in Nigeria, with some accusing authorities of misusing the criminal justice system to silence critics.
This is media trial, and this is media publicity. And for us, very simple. We are happy that finally protesters have been charged. Unfortunately, instead of charging them for protest, the Tinubu government has charged them for terrorism. What an irony of some sort.
These people were picked from different states. You pick somebody from Maraba, pick somebody from Wuse, somebody from Kaduna, somebody from Kando. People that have never met before in their lives. People that have never had any cause of interaction together before, and charge them together for the same offense. This is funny.
Well, researchers from the World Meteorological Society say that Africa faces a disproportionate burden from climate change and the costs of adapting to it. Now, the stark statement was at the heart of a report released on Monday, which sets out how, despite the continent being responsible for the smallest regional contribution to the greenhouse gases that have caused climate change, that's just under 4%, it's warming up faster than anywhere else. Now, it's happening fastest in North Africa, where parts of Morocco have suffered temperatures of over 50 degrees this summer. Elsewhere, though, the disruption has caused extreme rainfall. In Nigeria, dozens of people have lost their lives over weeks of severe flooding. Our Sam Olokoya brings us more from Lagos.
Statistics from Nigeria's National Emergency Management Agency shows that besides the almost 200 people killed in recent flooding, more than 500,000 others have been affected in other ways. More than 200,000 people have lost their homes. Similarly, more than 100,000 hectares of farmlands have been lost. The loss of farmland is likely to affect Nigeria's food security. Even then, authorities say the worst is yet to come. There are warnings that more deaths and destruction will be recorded between now and the end of October, when the rainy season is expected to reach its peak. The worst affected areas are the northern parts of the country, which are traversed by some of Nigeria's largest rivers, like the Niger and Benue. The northern region is an area prone to environmental degradation and extreme weather conditions. The region is also the poorest in the country. The poverty rate has encouraged insecurity, terrorism, and political uprising. In the northeast, Islamic groups like Boko Haram are quite active, while in the northwest, armed groups known as bandits are very active. It is feared that the poverty, homelessness, hunger, and other hardship caused by the recent flooding will further heighten insecurity and religious extremism in the region.
Our Sam Olokoya there for us. Now, from Djibouti, Nigeria, Mali, and more, African leaders have been making their way to Beijing for a red carpet welcome ahead of a huge forum this week for delegates from the continent and China. Now, China's saying that the meeting will be its biggest diplomatic event since the pandemic. And the stakes are high as the country is keen to stay ahead of the competition, hoping to unseat it as Africa's largest trading partner. Bilateral figures on this hit over $167 billion in the first half of this year alone. Now, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa touched down on Monday before meeting with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. The head of state also met with DR Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi, whose country has vast natural resources. Now, the rapid growth of cities is wiping out Ivory Coast's wetlands. The risks are particularly high around the economic hub of Abidjan. And as our team found out, the disappearance of these vital biodiversity hotspots affects more than just the plants and animals that have long been found there.
This sacred land is one of the last mangrove oases in this area. Out of this vegetation, which used to cover over 500 square kilometers of coastline in the 1970s, only 30 kilometers remain.
Originally, this mangrove forest was where fish came to reproduce. It was an area very rich in fish. As the city of Abidjan grew, there were land grabs. People came to us with land titles. We don't know by what magic they got them. The administration told us that it has not produced any document that gives authorization to destroy the mangrove. There are people who have great political support and in the administration who commit abuses, and that's the result.
Ils sollicitent des dragues pour pouvoir tirer du sable dans la lagune, pour pouvoir remblayer les terrains, pour pouvoir avoir la possibilité de construire comme ils veulent.
In many cases, the areas which have been refilled are wetlands which are critical for the environment. Refilling makes them suitable for building.
Wet ecosystems are the areas that drain water. When there is a lot of rain, they hold water and allow infiltration into the water table, a slow infiltration. When it's backfilled, it's closed. It blocks the system. The erosion becomes strong, and then it causes flooding.
Ivory Coast's Ministry of Construction has been trying to stop this.
We have adopted the Construction and Housing Code and the Urban Planning and Land Code, to name but a few. The second thing is stepping up inspections to prevent uncontrolled construction.
Ivory Coast has struggled to preserve the Bassam coastline despite it being a Ramsar site, a convention which identifies wetlands of international importance.
Well, DR Congo is heading into a new school year, but the fallout of conflict in the northeast has made kids' preparations particularly difficult. But some in the city of Goma are managing it. That, though, is not the case for children still in displacement camps just a few kilometers away. Our team tells us more.
The academic year is about to start in DR Congo. Amid the haggling shoppers at Goma's Virunga market, Victor Nathaniel is looking for the school bags, books and stationery that he needs to buy for his 3 children. But inflation has sent prices soaring and money is tight.
I haven't bought everything because I still need bags for the children. I don't know by what miracle I'll get them tomorrow. I am paid by the Congolese state, but my salary won't be able to cover all these costs at the start of the school year. That's why preparations are so difficult for us.
A few kilometers away, the hustle and bustle of back-to-school preparations is absent from families living at the Munigi displacement camp. While some children have been able to enroll in school this year, most will once again be deprived of an education. Seth, 17, hasn't been to formal classes for 2 years.
I need to study. If I find someone who can take care of my schooling, I can study.
In the meantime, the teenager sells phone credit to earn a little money. Here, families' main hope is for the fighting that drove them away from their homes to end, and perhaps a return to their villages and normal lives.
Some of my children have become rebels because they don't study. We're asking for help to end the war so we can go home and find a place for them to study.
It's been 3 years since M23 rebels, backed by Rwanda, took up arms and took over large parts of North Kivu province. Peace is still a distant prospect. Civil society groups working with the displaced say education cannot wait.
We invite the government to create temporary schools in which displaced children can be educated without paying school fees, because we know that they have no school, not enough teachers, and not enough money to pay the school fees.
Nearly 3 million people have fled the violence in North Kivu. The conflict's impact on DR Congo's future is magnified by this disruption to the education and prospects of so many young people.
Well, before we go, a quick look at Africa's performance at the Paralympic Games here in Paris. Congrats to Ethiopia's Yayesh Gate Deshfor, who won gold on the track in the women's 1,500 metres T11 category for visually impaired athletes, and not far behind her to bring home the bronze was South Africa's Luzanne Kwitse. Tunisia's wheelchair racer Walid Kitila won silver in the men's T34 100 metres, and Nigeria's Mariam Iniola Bolaji took home bronze in the badminton. Congratulations to all of them. That is, though, all we have time for Eye in Africa. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.
France 24, your window on the world.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.
Special event.
After the spectacular experience of the Olympic Games, from August 28th to September 8th, we're rekindling the flame on France 24, passing the baton to the Paralympian athletes, with interviews, backstage access and reactions. Don't miss the Paris Paralympic Games on France 24.